So you have technically 7 names.
Yes. Well, yeah, if you include the last name.
So 6. So you have 6 names, not including your last name.
Now,
so,
according to my grandmother, I have 21 names.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
According to my grandmother. So, long story short, because I was firstborn American child.
Welcome to another episode of the Bigger the Food Podcast. I am your host, Apollo Woods, and I say it every week. I probably need to put this on like a replay. I say it every week, meeting with some great entrepreneurs here in Oklahoma City and across the country. Here on the podcast, we talk about more than just what they do, but we dig into who they are, the entrepreneurship journey, and they'll share some tips with us on how they've been successful in their pursuit. So today, I have a fitness extraordinaire, health advocate, athlete, all that. Emmanuel, who is the owner of Intentional Fitness, an amazing guy, amazing story he's going to share with us. So, Emmanuel, welcome to the Bigger Than Food Podcast.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No problem. Yeah. So, I always like to do is start off with you telling us who you are. Like, who is Emmanuel? Not what you do,
right?
But who are you?
I am first generation Nigerian American, oldest of 3 boys.
Okay.
Parents, of course, immigrants from Nigeria. Father of 3 beautiful babies myself. And I am blessed to love what I do. Which is fitness and helping people. I've always envisioned myself as a superhero. And I've always wanted to be of help, not just to my family, but of course to the community that I choose to serve.
Gotcha. See, and that's why I asked the question what I do, because people get into, they ease back in talking about what you do.
Yeah.
And you start off with talking about who you are. So I'm gonna go with that. So you are a first generation Nigerian American.
Yes.
You're the oldest of 3.
Yes.
Okay. So where are you from in Nigeria?
My parents are from Ibadan in Lagos.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I've been learning a lot about different countries in Nigeria. So those who don't know, so Africa is a continent and there are countries within the continent of Africa.
Correct.
And Nigeria is a country, okay?
Correct.
Not a state, it's a country.
Right. Lagos is the state.
Lagos is the state, right? So how was it? So when did you come to the United States?
Well, I was born and raised.
Oh, so you're born
and raised. Yeah.
Okay.
79 is when I was born.
So you were born in 79.
Yeah.
When did your parents come to the United States?
My dad came first, probably about 72, 73.
Okay.
And then my mom followed shortly after, about 75, 76.
Okay. So have you ever talked to your parents about why they chose to leave Lagos?
America is the land of milk and honey.
Okay.
The land of opportunity. I think that's why most foreigners come. Of course, as many foreigners typically plan, they plan to get the education and take it back home.
Okay.
But of course, opportunity is so abundant, especially in the 70s.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where they came on an education visa and ended up staying, got their citizenship and made a home for us.
Okay. Mm-hmm. When was the last time you remember the first time you went back to Lagos?
Man, yeah. 10 years old.
Okay. Talk to me about that. What was that like for you?
That was amazing. Well, I don't know if you remember the movie La Bamba.
Yeah.
So I saw that movie right before leaving, which was not good for me.
That plane ride?
Man, I was nervous. And of course, that's the longest I've ever been on a plane. But the experience was wonderful, one that I'll never forget. I remember it very vividly, seeing my grandparents, seeing cousins that I'd never met before, and just being treated like a king was amazing. Having my family was, I'm not going to say they were just wealthy, but they were well-to-do. Yeah. And so, going home and having people that were older than me, calling me sir and
Wow.
Yeah, helping me. And I'm not like they were servants or anything, but house boys, house girls is what they were called. And it was amazing just being in that environment. The smells, the looks, the food, everything was beautiful. Wild horses running on the beach, that was just it was awesome.
Yeah.
So that was a great experience.
And I love the way you describe it because we often hear these biases and stereotypes and how things are portrayed on the news of what mother country looks like.
Right.
And so to hear you describe it that way just reinforces like I think things that people need to hear, especially from that was your first experience.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Being, firstborn.
Yes.
Truly an African American or Nigerian American born and going back and experiencing that.
Yes.
So when you came back, I'm probably a little bit ahead of myself. When you came back at 10 years old, how did that experience shape you in growing up?
Oh,
I became your childhood.
I became very prideful in my culture and in my heritage. Couldn't talk bad about can't talk bad about Africa without almost having to fight. So it was one of those things where I understood where I came from, where my parents came from, why they took so much pride in who they were and what they were doing here. And so it was very important. And even down to my children, they're very proud Nigerian American. they say, no, we're Nigerian.
Yeah. So what is your full name?
Oh, wow. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Olumuyiwa Emmanuel Tolulope Akindele Aloyede Ishala Sosanya.
Okay. And the reason I do that, I was counting because most people I know that are like from Africa, there are multiple names.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you have technically 7 names.
Yes. Well, yeah, if you include the last name.
So 6. So you have 6 names, not include your last name.
Now,
so,
according to my grandmother, I have 21 names.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
According to my grandmother. So, long story short, because I was firstborn American child, and firstborn male of the firstborn male of the chief. Right. So if I was
so your dad's a chief.
No, well, his dad was chief.
His dad. Okay. So
but my dad was firstborn.
Oh, okay, I got it. So you were the firstborn male of a male whose father,
whose dad was chief. Yeah.
Got
it. Yeah.
So it makes sense. So when you come back, there's this honor and respect.
Oh yeah.
As you.
Oh yeah.
Gotcha.
So when people say, "Oh, you a prince?" Well, I'm in a line. I'm in line to be
next
chief.
in line. Next in line. He's next in line. Okay, so let's get back to this 21 names.
Yes.
So your grandmother said you technically have 21 names.
Yes. So it was a big deal, of course, me being born here in America, and again, the lineage, and so because all of my grandparents weren't here when I was born, even though some of my uncles and aunties were, I was sent names, but they sent names.
Okay.
So names were sent from both grandparents, my mom's and my dad's parents, but names were also given to me by uncles and by aunties. And so it was a big deal. Of course, the names I just mentioned, those were the main ones.
Okay.
They could only put about 4 of them on my birth certificate. So
was there when you went back, was there like a ceremony or something for
you
went back?
Huge celebration.
Because I asked it because it's usually in the birthing rite, the naming rite.
Yes.
The celebration. But this was your first time going back at 10.
Yes. Huge celebration. It was a big deal. Okay. It was a big deal.
Okay, so can you name all 21?
I cannot.
Okay, I was tempted. I was testing to see if you're gonna name all
21.
I just think that's just a beautiful thing when your name means something.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you understand the reason why you have a particular name,
right?
Because it connects to you as a person. You understand what you respond to,
right,
and what it means, especially as a man. Like,
yes,
your name means something, and you want to stand up for your particular identity.
I got lots of fights here.
But let's talk about that, because I was going to ask you that. So we're both born in 79.
Yes.
Your father got in 72. Mother came in 73.
About 75, 76.
Okay, so a few years later came here as well.
Yes.
Now, during that time, I think in Oklahoma, that was during a lot of migration of West Africans to Oklahoma
It was.
during that time
It
period.
was.
And most um, Africans that moved to Oklahoma either moved to North Oklahoma City, kind of Edmondish kind of area, or out west, like War Acres area, which is the largest concentration, from my understanding, of where the African populations are. So your dad came here during a time where people, even black folks, weren't so friendly to Africans. Well.
Oh yeah. Very a lot of stereotypes. Yeah.
So did you witness that for your dad, or what was that experience like for you? So you were born in Norman.
No, I do. We do have family in Norman, but I was born. Well, I was born. Actually, yes, I was born.
Okay.
I was born in Norman. Yes, I was. We weren't there very long, but yeah, I was born in Norman, and then we moved South Side, and then moved North Side.
Okay. So, and I have in my head how probably a really bad kid I was, and things I would say, just being ignorant.
Yeah.
But how was childhood like for you? Not, I'm not asking the question like in a negative answer, but just overall, like what were your childhood experiences like being a Nigerian in America living in Oklahoma City?
And to be honest, it was fun. I hung out with mainly cousins and friends of my parents and their children. Going to school wasn't necessarily hard. A lot of expectation. I had my parents had high expectations for me, which is why, even though they spoke, Yoruba, they spoke their language amongst each other. And of course the family, they were very, very emphatic that I speak English.
Really?
And they didn't want me to have any issues in the classroom. They didn't want me to have a thick accent, even though when I get angry or excited, it comes out anyway.
Voice gets deeper.
Yeah. So, but it was one of those things where they had such high expectations in regards to education, that they didn't want me to mix the two, and they didn't want me to be, discriminated.
That seems almost opposite of what I know from some of my friends that are from Nigeria, and your parents are telling you, I want you to learn English well.
Yes.
Right. They were thinking about you in that sense. Why do you think they chose that approach to the opposite? What I've understood is that you only speak your language, speak your native tongue all the time.
Well, so I think they were really more so concerned about how white America would view me.
Okay.
They wanted me to be able to get a good job. Again, they wanted me to be able to get, academic scholarships and perform well in school. Okay. And so they, of course, had difficulty, just with it because of their accent. Even though they spoke English, they spoke English, but they had difficulty with the accent. I was one of the kids that when we go to the drive-through, I got to lean over and give the order, because my mom's thick accent, very thick accent. My dad, he conformed. The first time I heard double speak or double talk was from my dad, because he was in the business world, and I remember one day he picked up the phone and he was like, "This is Tony."
No. So he code switched on.
Who's Tony? Who's that? But I learned very quickly what he was doing and why.
So they were doing that to, maybe the word is, maybe it's the word is mine says keeping you safe, but maybe it's more of helping you understand how to navigate in a world that doesn't speak your language.
That's right.
Or may not understand while you do things different as a culture.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
We're talking about for them, it's early 70s.
Yeah, early 70s.
And for you, it's late 70s going into the 80s.
Yep.
So I could see how they were forward thinking in that way.
Yeah.
What was school life like?
School life was interesting. So, and it's, I went to majority, white schools. One of the schools I remember very vividly was West Nichols Hills.
Okay.
They got me into a, good school, and and so, it was majority white kids, a few blacks, and they really had no problem saying at least Muyiwa, right?
Okay.
Not they didn't go with the whole Olumuyiwa, but they had no problem saying Muyiwa. And it wasn't until I got to the northwest side of town, Putnam City District,
Okay.
about fourth grade,
Okay.
fifth grade. That's when I got to meet my counterparts.
So that would be what, 80,
Yeah, 80,
85, 86?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so that was definitely during a time where a lot of Black families were moving from the Northeast side to the Putnam City district, Putnam City area, going further west.
Yeah, like you said, War Acres.
War Acres,
that area, yeah.
Okay.
And so that's when things got a little harder.
So you got around us. It became more difficult because you were the African guy.
Man, I was proud.
What a funny name.
Funny name.
Very proud.
Came in my African garb, my my dagba, all that, and not that I wore it every day, but I was proud of it.
So that was fifth grade.
Yeah, about fifth grade.
So fifth grade. So that was around the time where you had just come back from your ceremony of being a prince in training.
Man, like I said, lots of fights.
I can see that. I can see that.
But that's how I ended up with the nickname Mooey. Over time, I ended up with the nickname Mooey.
Okay, I feel like there's something. I feel like there's something in I feel like you're trying to be polite about of this going to the fifth grade.
Yeah,
and you got a nickname. I
was getting forced it on me.
You got you are Nigerian American, African American. You meet your Black American counterparts.
Yes.
Was it a class?
It was initially. It was because my parents, again, they were here to excel. Okay. And we were majority of my classmates that were Black, African American. They lived in the apartments on the outside of the white neighborhood that we lived in.
Oh,
and it became common knowledge that we lived in the White House on the corner with the pillars. And so
so that just made the jokes easier.
Oh man, you think you this, you think you that, and of course, African booty scratcher was a big one back then.
Yeah, it was.
And of course, my dark skin, and at the time I wore glasses.
Okay.
And so it was one of those things where I really had to fight for my respect, fight for my honor, and my culture.
Physically fight, or okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So then when you were doing that at school, what was it like when you got home?
I got in trouble.
Okay.
Because I wasn't supposed to be fighting.
Okay.
And my parents tried to make it seem as, it's just words. Right. But for me, it was more than words. Of course, they're adults at this time, and they have their own, fights that they're dealing with, not physically, but they're dealing with at work.
And you're the oldest, right? So
I am the oldest.
You're the oldest. So the oldest, you don't typically have like another example or somebody else that can help you navigate, these words being thrown at you.
Right.
And it's really it's like a cultural clash.
It is.
Right. And so kids have and adults have a really poor way of communicating their lack of understanding.
Right.
So it's easier to poke fun at something versus asking a question to understand.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And they would ask questions, but oftentimes the questions were in jest, so
it's like a setup.
Yeah.
And then see that in the 80s, there was a time where like we would jonesing and cracking jokes.
Yeah. And I wasn't used to that.
There was your mama jokes.
Man.
You come straight off of, being crowned future king in training, and somebody doing your mama joke. Talking about your culture, or maybe the foods that you eat, or, making up all these odors and smells or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you're navigating that as a 10-year-old.
Yes. And it was tough. And I'll mention my favorite movie, Coming to America.
I was just about to say that.
Everything you heard in Coming to America, I heard before the movie was ever made.
So then the movie comes out and you get a different level of respect because now the movie comes out. Right?
Oh yeah, and it was funny.
Now they want to be your friend.
Favorite movie.
Seen lions.
Yeah. You ever fight lions? And I'm like, they got to answer these questions.
Great. So you're athletic.
Yeah.
You're athletic. You chose fitness.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you realize like you have a talent and you wanted to be a part of sports. If I remember correctly, you mentioned that really soccer was your first love.
It was. And that's all my parents really knew.
Okay.
Soccer, tennis,
So
but
in the world is football.
football.
Yeah. And there's American football.
Right.
So your first love was football.
It was. And I was fast, I was strong, but I was a skinny kid, skinny little beanpole. But of course, we were punished different. Those of us first generation, we were punished different. So I think a lot of my core strength and
the discipline was different.
A lot of that strength came just naturally.
Yeah, maybe some wall squats, maybe push-ups,
some
planks,
extended planks.
Yeah, it could be
one-handed plank,
carrying some things for a long,
standing on one leg,
that kind of stuff. Not having a clue that what you were doing was going to be a part of your fitness program,
right?
Or it's funny how things come back around,
right?
So soccer being your first love, but you didn't play soccer, and you didn't. When you went to college, you didn't play soccer.
No, so as I got into junior high, all the more popular sports that my cousins were playing, that became the thing. American football, basketball, and I wasn't good at any of them because I didn't understand the skill sets. I just run hard. But yeah, no, that became my next thing, which was American football, but then basketball became my love.
Okay. So there was basketball. Did how students or your peers your age, did they interact with you different when you started playing American sports?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because now it was, you're part of the team. You got to get better so we can be better. And so a lot of playing street ball, going to different community centers, and just being introduced to the sport, being introduced to the flavor. This is around the time of the Detroit Pistons, the bad boy Pistons.
Bad boys.
That's who I grew up watching. So that's who I fashioned my game after, because I didn't have the shooting skills or the dribbling skills, but I was strong enough to take you out the air.
So you mentioned earlier that, when you first, like around 10 years old, you went to a different school.
Yeah.
It was a challenge. And now you're playing sports.
Yeah.
And you said something, you said you felt like you were part of a team.
Yes.
Did you start to feel like you are moving to that place of now people are starting to accept me because
absolutely
I'm part of the team now?
Absolutely. And I could dance really well.
Okay. Still do.
Still do. Yeah.
Do you so then going from that place to this feeling of acceptance and belonging, how did that change maybe your social dynamics or your outlook on the middle school, high school time frame? How did that change for you?
It changed because at this time I'm now two different people when I'm in school.
Okay. Clarify what that means.
All right. Okay. So when I'm in school, I'm mooey.
Okay. I still need to figure out what is how did mooey come along?
Okay. So it was fifth grade and sixth grade, but they took the mooyiwa.
Okay.
And they were like, some of the fights were they would be like moo and act as if I was a cow. And then they, and it was one of those things that I could not stand.
Okay.
Again, I had pride in my name. I knew what my name meant, which
say my name,
a gift from God. Yeah. It's like, you're not gonna mess my name up. So it was one of those things where, like I said, I could dance really well. So sixth grade, towards the end of the year, talent show, right? And I basically freestyled. And the next thing you know, the whole school's going, moo.
So from a name of antagonizing you, trying to be funny,
right,
to this became that's his nickname.
Yeah. That's
because people really couldn't pronounce your name.
Right. And a few could. Those who became my good friends, they understood.
Most kids choose not to.
True.
Okay.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then now you're starting to feel like I'm a part of something versus feeling alienated in the beginning.
Right.
Now you're a part of a team and you're performing well. Do you recall when you believe that I think sports might be a way for me to do something more or go to college?
Definitely. My freshman year, and I was a good athlete. I wasn't a good skilled athlete. So again, the intricacies of basketball and football, how to move your hands,
So, like raw talent, didn't have the sport acumen or IQ yet.
Right. I could jump, I could run, but couldn't really make plays. Other than defensive plays, which is what got me into college.
Okay. And defensive basketball is kind of similar to playing soccer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Got to be able to move your feet, got to be able to, move backwards, move sideways, different angles. And I was good at that. And of course, I had really good balance and core strength. So it wasn't until after my ninth grade year, because I rode the pond for most of my ninth grade year. And my coach, A.D. Birchie, God rest his soul, he asked me, he said, "Do you want to play college basketball?" And I said, "Yes." And so at that point in time, I transitioned from glasses to contacts.
See, I had the goggles.
Yeah, I had the goggles for a short stint, but didn't last, and I didn't like them. But yeah, he basically told me you need to come. It was myself and one of my cousins, and I say cousin lightly. He was his dad and my dad were very, very tight.
Okay,
and so we went to school together. But that summer after ninth grade year, he said, "You come to the school Monday through Friday, 2 hours a day,
right.
and we'll get you there."
So that was your dad's good friend.
No, not the coach, but
the cousin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, what do you think that the coach saw in you? Because if you were not playing most of your freshman year,
right,
what do you think the coach saw in you to ask you, did you want to be varsity?
He saw the desire that I had. He saw that I was always showing up, that I was always going hard. And I think, at that time, early 90s, it was just one of those things where, if you want it, you're going to show it.
Okay. So this had to be what, 92, 93?
92, 92,
Okay.
93. Yeah.
Okay.
And from that point, made the varsity team as a sophomore, and that's when things really started to change in regards to what I thought I could do as a potential college athlete.
So then you stopped playing soccer to focus on basketball?
Man, I stopped playing soccer in seventh grade.
Why?
I just started trying to conform and being part of the team aspect.
Okay.
I noticed that there were more of us, Black young athletes on the football field and on the basketball court than were on the soccer field. And not that they weren't, because I still had cousins and good friends that were on the soccer field, but they had developed certain skills and gotten better. But even they ended up turning to football and basketball.
What did your parents think about that?
They didn't understand it. They didn't understand the sport. They didn't understand the violence of football. That wasn't something that they really watched. And also, they didn't really care that, I was playing sports, so to speak, because they didn't see what it was going to lead to.
Right.
So it was like, oh, you're just playing. You go to school to do your work. You go to school to get an education. We don't send you to school to play. So it was an outlet for me away from home. I got to spend time away from home. I got to go on, trips with the team, and it was the only way that I could stay the night, other than my friends and my cousins, close family friends and cousins. Is the only way I could stay the night and stay out of the house past midnight was to be with one of my teammates.
So you became more motivated to get involved in sports because I got to get away from the house.
Man, I needed freedom,
and I can see the difference with your parents, because they sport was really a recreation.
That's all it was
for them, because growing up it was you go to school to learn, and then you got to go work or you got to go do something.
Exactly.
And those things were valuable to directly tie back to what you're going to do in the home.
Exactly.
Whereas here it is, sport can be a tool.
Right.
And you decide to go from what they knew from football to being involved in these American sports that just seemed like entertainment.
Exactly. Because they were watching it on TV, but they didn't understand the transition from high school into college and how sports can make that much easier.
Do you remember when you started getting recruited and maybe your parents started to recognize that maybe this can be an opportunity for you to pursue an education?
Yeah. So it was funny because when I was getting ready to graduate, and I actually I got, small, recruitment. Wasn't majorly recruited because again, I was more of a defensive player, a rebounder. But I was offered a full scholarship to Paul Quinn University.
Paul Quinn,
which at the time I didn't know anything about Paul Quinn. Somebody told me it's probably a good thing I didn't go because I was that guy that I was willing to jump into anything and do.
But that was
97.
97. I graduated with 97 as well. Yeah. Paul Quinn about that time. Yeah.
I
had a family in that area, man. So I understand.
So it's probably saved my life. But what happened was on graduation,
she being a prideful person.
Oh yeah.
Paul Quinn being a very prideful community.
I was a lot bigger at that time. Muscles came in. I felt like I couldn't be touched.
Eating a whole lot of chicken,
man, and fufu.
I learned something. So fufu is a West African Nigerian, right? Ugali is Kenyan, which that's more East African,
right?
But there just are different names for fufu. And I also learned, so I don't know if it's the same in Nigerian food culture, but is fufu, is it the center of is the primary dish
that
on the table?
That and jollof rice.
Okay.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
I learned something. I just found that out like a week ago.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Because I guess when you think about like foods, like, even for like my family, like the main dish might be the turkey, or it might be the meat protein, and your sides don't necessarily have to match anything,
right.
But fufu and ugali and things like that are they're the center of the table.
Yes,
that must be there.
Yes,
and the fufu is everything accents. The fufu.
Yeah, the stew, the rice, everything.
Learn that. I learned that.
Yeah.
Learned that recently. But so as you go to, so what college you decided to attend?
So I was told.
You were told.
Again, I'm 18 at the time, right? And I was told that I was not going to take the full scholarship to Paul Quinn.
Okay.
This is graduation night. In front of
graduation night,
I'm not going. You're not going to Paul Quinn. You're going to go to OU, where your uncle is the head of the engineering department.
Back to education.
Right, back to education. So went to OU. Didn't try to walk on. None of that. Freshman year was crazy.
Okay.
Because I finally broke the chains.
Okay.
And we had pagers at the time, and
parents didn't understand pagers.
Oh no, when I got one,
you answer. You got change in your pocket. Right. Go to the payphone.
They could not stand the fact that I had a pager. They hated that. They what are you, a drug dealer? What? and it was just the thing. Everybody had pagers at the time. And so, I'm kind of going with the flow, finding myself. And my freshman year at OU was it was a storm. Let's just say that it was a huge storm. I did a lot in that short period of time. Experienced a lot.
I mean, so now you're at a large college campus,
man,
at a university with a known brand. And you're going into, that was 97. So
yes, 97, 98.
Championship competing teams.
Yeah.
Winning, 2000?
Yeah.
Winning 2000. So your junior year, they win a national championship. So leading up to it, all this stuff is going on.
Yeah.
And you have freedom, prideful university environment, prideful institution. So it's a good match for you to feel like you could do, this is good for me.
I could do a lot, but I wasn't ready.
Distractions.
I wasn't ready.
I understand that.
The girls, the freedom to decide if I wanted to go to class.
You're away from home.
Oh man, I didn't answer the phone. Let's just say. Every dorm room had a phone.
You gave your parents every reason to call you all the time, to treat you like you don't understand what you're doing.
Man, yeah, it was wild because I wanted to be free from the constraints and from the rules. And so I broke all of them. Yeah.
So then what inspired you to get back on track?
Just because I knew I was meant for something more.
Okay.
I knew that wasn't my path. I actually ended up leaving OU after my freshman year. And I should say I didn't leave. I flunked out. And again, going in as a good student, 20, 24, 25 on the ACT, had good grades. It was one of those things where what I did there was not representative of everything that I had done prior. So
it wasn't you were not representing who you were.
I was not.
Was that it? How was that conversation like with your dad?
Oh, with my mom.
Your mom?
Oh man. Let's just say it was very violent, and it wasn't from my end. It was a very violent conversation. It was not from my end. But yeah, no, it hurt them. Just to be honest, it hurt them because they had high expectations. And I had, again, other cousins and very very close friends that were also Nigerian American that they might have been having fun and whatnot, but it wasn't as exposed as what I was doing.
Okay.
So I was compared to a lot of my cousins and a lot of my friends.
So you went through this experience of, going into, got to like the 5th grade, you experiencing this, I'm not a part of something.
Yeah.
And then get to experience becoming a part of something.
Right.
And feeling accepted.
Yes.
And then going off to college, which is a totally different world.
Yes.
Different people, different cultures from out of state, from where all over the place.
Yes.
Also, other people from different countries in Africa as well.
Yes.
On one geographic location.
Yes.
It's a lot of stimulus going on.
A lot.
Right?
A lot.
And then at some point you realize either you did yourself or by influence or whatnot that I'm not honoring my name or who I am.
Right. And not reaching my full potential.
Okay.
My taking pride in who I am as a person in the world and how I'm not necessarily perceived in the world, but what I do and how it's received.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I want to talk a bit about like your career going into fitness. So you are personal trainer, you're a fitness professional.
Yes.
And when did you start? How did you get into the fitness industry, the field?
It was definitely through sports. Finally got a basketball scholarship after, going all around and figuring myself out and understanding who I was becoming.
Where did you get the basketball scholarship at?
First one was at Southwestern Christian College.
Okay.
JUCO.
Southwest as well.
Do you remember where, Terrell, Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah, where Jamie Foxx is from.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Church of Christ.
Yep.
School. Yeah. It was that's where I first went, and that's when I realized because it was very and I'll say it was a good school, small school. I think 220 max students. So it put me in a different environment, but it was also kind of loose, and again, not to badmouth the school, but there wasn't a lot of structure in regards to the students after class. So small town.
Yep.
So we, got into some, and I was focused, but got into some stuff with people in the neighborhood and whatnot. And just because it was such a small school, we had community showers, which I was not used to. And so I was like, you know what? And the basketball team, talented, but we were terrible as a team. Again, the structure. And so I was like, yeah, this is not for me. Took my 2-year scholarship and cut it in half.
Isn't it strange that the discipline and structure that you fought against is what you ultimately felt like you needed?
I needed it
to be successful.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's so when you leave Southwestern and go where?
UCO.
Went to UCO. Okay.
Yep.
So finish your degree at UCO.
Finished the degree at UCO, kinesiology, bachelor's in kinesiology. Mind you, graduated on the Dean's Honor Roll.
Okay. You got there.
Yeah. And my fiance, of course, my wife now, she actually gave me an ultimatum.
Okay, tell me about that.
Hey, she's a strong woman from Douglas. Her whole family, went to Douglas. She graduated a year after I did in '98. So we actually met when I was at OU.
Okay,
and stuck together through it all. And she basically said, "Get it together, or I'm out.
Sounds kind of like when you were tripping your freshman year, your mom stepped in.
Yeah.
And here's your then fiance,
Yeah.
now wife,
Yes.
get you in check too.
Yeah. I didn't want to lose her. And so I finally got focused. I honed in. And graduated. We agreed that we both wanted to have our degrees before we got married.
Okay.
And actually got married my senior year. And things started
What
to
year was that?
change. 05.
05. Okay.
Yeah, because I played around a lot.
Somehow people gravitate to you,
Mhm.
even though that you were discovering yourself along the way.
Yes.
And so overall, I could see how you would want to pursue something that helps people.
Mhm.
What is it about fitness and kinesiology and sports that made you say, I want to help people with their health or be better athletes or better performing people?
Well, it was really my little brother.
Okay.
He's 9.5 years younger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
My baby brother's 12 years younger. But I realized.
Wait.
Yeah.
It's three of them.
There's three of us.
The middle child is
9.5 years younger than I am.
And then the baby is 12.
12 years younger.
Wow.
Yeah. There was a gap. There was a big gap.
Wow. Okay.
But it allowed me to teach.
Okay.
Which oddly enough, I was a teacher for 6 years and a coach. But seeing what my brother could do, the potential, and it was one of those things where it was kind of, I saw myself in him. He was not a great athlete. I remember he came home. My dad mentions a story about me coming home and crying because nobody would pass me the ball. And the same thing happened with him. He came home crying, nobody would pass him the ball. And I said, okay. I said, you ready to change all that?
Challenge.
Next thing you know, he's player of the year his junior year.
Wow.
He and Blake Griffin came out the same year.
Nice.
And he was highly sought after as an athlete. And I remember I got a call from my mom one day, and she said, "Why is your brother's name in the newspaper?" And my parents, they thought that the only thing I cared about at that point in time while I'm in college was sports.
Okay.
Sports. And they felt like I was pushing that onto my brothers. But I realized that the better athlete they were, the better chances that they would have. And they were good students.
Gotcha.
Too. But I realized, how it would benefit them to be dominant.
Do you think that you being the firstborn, that your parents were thinking it from a place of, we saw what you were going through and our experience with you, and they looked at it as this sport thing as a distraction? They looked at it from that lens
initially,
versus for you as the oldest and went through that.
Yeah.
The wisdom says, well, let me help him nurture this thing that can create an opportunity for him.
Absolutely. And they initially, they allowed him to be in sports and whatnot, but it wasn't as serious as the one he got into high school.
Okay.
Because when he got into high school, people were like, well, who is this kid? And he has all these skills and this strength. And so he
did he go to the same high school as you did?
No. So that's what I was going to say. Because of what I went through, they thought it was because of it was the public school environment.
Gotcha.
So my brothers went to private school.
So we put to work a little hard to spend a little more money to get you out of this public school. Get you to private.
They went to Bishop McGinnis. Okay. That's where they graduated from, and that was the whole thing. It was like, okay, we don't want them to end up like you.
Gotcha.
How my parents that's how my mom especially approached it. So
how did you receive that? How did you receive that?
Then I it hurt a little bit because it was like, oh, was I that bad?
Right.
That, and I understood. My mom was like, she wants them to have more opportunity. Even my wife, she's kind of the same way. She's like, hey, when we can afford to send all three to private school, we're going to send them. And I'm like, okay, well, again, in my head, I came from a public school. That bad? It's not that bad. They can do fine in a public school. So, and she realizes that too, my wife. But again, my mom at the time was like, she didn't want the influence. She didn't want the mindset that I took to OU. She didn't want them to have that.
Because I think she probably saw sports as a distraction.
Yeah.
Whereas you kind of learned that you learn through sports,
Yes.
it does create discipline.
Yeah.
Right. The practice and the application creates the discipline. Now the game and the other stuff that comes along with it can be a distraction.
Right.
But you saw it as a way to get the best out of someone.
When he was so highly sought after, and people were like, well, how did he get this good? Then he pointed the finger to me and said,
My brother.
Yeah. And that's when it became a thing of
But you were teaching at that time.
I was teaching my brother.
No, were you teaching like you were a teacher?
Yeah, but that wasn't until after he graduated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after he graduated high school. Yeah.
So, but what were you doing at that time?
At that time, I was just working.
Okay.
I was training people. I'd been training people since college at UCO. I led basically our strength and conditioning for the basketball team there. Okay. And of course, in the same time, training my brother. So it wasn't until almost 3 years out of college that I started teaching. And at that time, he was on his way out into college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then when that started, when did it become like, you know what, I want to become where I get my certification? When did you realize that these experiences around your core family unit were having an impact on the decisions that you were making as an adult?
I realized it, I would say probably when I started teaching and coaching. Okay. When I started teaching and coaching, I was a teacher like my dad. Okay. Who did, and he didn't last as a teacher for a long time because he didn't take disrespect.
You made 6 years.
I made 6 years. It didn't get fired. Unlike him. It is funny because he got fired from Taft.
Oh wow.
He taught math.
Taft?
Taft. So yeah, you can imagine.
Hold on.
Right?
Like Taft on the west side Taft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not saying nothing against Taft. Listen, looking right in the camera. I'm not saying nothing bad against the school. Nothing at all. Not at all. Dad had to choose a different career path.
He was
teaching at Taft.
He laid out some Nigerian discipline that got him exited quick.
She got to go.
You cannot hit.
No, you cannot. No rulers, no nothing. No corporal punishment.
Yeah, none of that. So, but I realized going into the field of education, teaching, and of course I was a coach, which again was my passion, teaching kids, teaching them how to be better athletes, but also better people.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I heard myself talking to the students the way my parents spoke to me. So, and the kids were like, why are you talking to us like that? Right. This is because like, I've been where you were at, I realized that the structure and the discipline that I was given helped me become the man that I am. Right. And it was like, but on my journey to becoming the man that I am, I did a whole bunch of stuff that a lot of my students were attempting to do.
So you connected with them because you could see what was happening. Oh yeah, right.
I related to them directly, and I was a young teacher, and so they liked that. I still had the muscles, and I had the beard before it became a popular thing, So I remember one of my kids drew a picture of me, calling me Kimbo Slice.
That's funny.
So yeah, yeah.
But I think even still, you talking about that story, it's you have intrinsically found some way to connect with people.
Yes.
So I want to fast forward because I want to talk about you opening up your first gym.
Yeah.
Right. So as you were building up your clientele, you were at Orange Theory.
Yes. So after I left, I stopped teaching after my 2 years at my last 2 years at Douglas. So 6 years of teaching, last 2 years were at Douglas. And I remember saying that I'm going to start my own fitness studio on the east side of Oklahoma City because I realized how deprived it was. There was nothing, and at the time we were living on the north side. The east side of Oklahoma City didn't look anything like the north side. And I was familiar with the east side from college and obviously from my wife. So I wasn't a stranger. As a matter of fact, my first haircut was a Mr. Adams.
There you go.
So,
There you go.
and he still remembers me to this day, his sons, and everything. And so I just looked at it and I said, I can be a change agent here.
But before we get there, I
Yeah.
think it's, we have these passions, and typically what a lot of Black-owned business will do will create a business in response to there's a need.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes out of passion.
Yes.
But before you got to the part of, like, talk about the journey of deciding and looking at creating a business opportunity that could be in a on the east side. So those you don't know the dynamics of Oklahoma City. So Northeast Oklahoma City, there's Northeast Oklahoma City, there's a quadrant, and there's the east side. So on the east side is predominantly Black community, historically through revitalization efforts has been divested. And so there's this big movement of bringing businesses back into predominantly Black community and Black spaces.
Right.
And Emmanuel is one of the people that has decided to invest in opening up a gym, a fitness facility in the community. But before talking about the gym being there, but talk about the process of how did you decide that you wanted to open a gym and then deciding where you wanted that gym to be on the east side?
Well, so after I had initially, and I'll say I was working for myself again, always training before school, after school, as far as when I was a teacher, and I had boot camps.
So you were a full-fledged entrepreneur, left teaching.
Yeah, well, I was an entrepreneur while I was teaching.
So while you were teaching, but then you became a full-time entrepreneur at what year, what time frame?
It was 2014 when I left Douglas.
So 2014. So that would be kind of the start of the revitalization efforts for the east side, 2014.
Yeah. But I wasn't doing it there, though.
Yeah, not there.
Yeah.
Just in terms of time frame. Yeah. So starting in 2014, you're full-time.
2.5 years straight running boot camps, training clients, going to their homes, meeting them at different gyms. Got banned from the YMCA.
I can't train people at the YMCA, man.
I trained it all. And it was not an employee, of course. So, but yeah, that was I dove headfirst into it.
So again, you're going a non-traditional route.
Yes.
Doing it your own way.
Yes.
Mom's probably like, I'm done. But you're doing it your own way because this is what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Right. And
I saw how to change people's lives.
You wanted to change people's lives.
Yes.
Do you believe that you see for you in what you do? And do you as what you do and just who you are? Do you often find yourself like, you know what, I see the potential, the good in people first?
Absolutely. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Even when, they're showing me opposite,
right.
I still, again, I thought I was a superhero. I wanted to be, had dreams of, rescuing and helping. And so, yeah, that was my focus was how can I change people's lives for the better?
Yeah. So do you, when you approach helping a client who has fitness goals and fitness or health aspirations, do you think that's what separates you? Because that's how you look at them. You look at them for their potential. You look that having that mindset helps you get the best out of them.
Absolutely. I always see the potential again, kind of like going back to my brother, both of my brothers, really. I knew what they were capable of, even when other people discounted or did not believe them, or believe in them. Even my baby brother, he didn't have the same opportunity that, and I say didn't have the same opportunity. He wasn't looked at as Michael was, because Michael was 6'6" and big kid. Our baby brother John was about just under 6 foot, right around 6 foot, right? But had a mindset, amazing mindset. We used to call him phenom, because it was like, man, if he was 6'4", 6'5",
right,
he would overshadow us easily. But he wasn't given that opportunity. So it was one of those things where, he was like, he got an academic scholarship to OU. and I helped him, fill out the scholarships and help him with the essay. Helped him edit his essays because I was an English teacher at the time.
So mom finally got her one.
She got her one.
She thought.
She got her one. She got her one.
She got her one.
He's a physical therapist, so we call him Dr. Sosanya. She's very happy to say she has a doctor, but when he got to OU, he told me before he got to OU, he wanted to play football.
Okay.
He wanted to put on that crimson and cream, and nobody believed in him.
Mm.
I did, of course. My baby brother. You're not gonna tell me he can't
Right.
do it. So we trained, and I mean the way he trained and the way he committed.
Mm.
And again, nobody really thought it was going to happen until he ended up walking onto the team. Mind you, full ride academic scholarship, all 4 years, paid for the whole nine. He walked onto that team and was on that team for 4 years.
Nice.
His mom, our mom proudly has his jersey and gloves in the house.
Mom finally sees way apart.
Man, and it was one of those things where I was like, if and again, I biased because it was my baby brother, but I realized that if I could get somebody who was considered undersized, not fast enough, considered not strong enough, if I could help him get to the point where Bob Stoops knows him by name,
right,
and he has respect from all these other guys, some of them in the NFL or have retired from the NFL, all these guys that had the great potential that were brought to that school specifically for football.
Right.
If I could get him to be on the same level as those guys, I feel like I could do it for anybody.
Okay, so going into launching your first brick and mortar business, your mindset is already developed to look at the challenge as an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Right. So then when you began to explore, when you were scouting the market, like you were scouting and figuring out, like, when you were scouting, trying to figure out what it is that you want to do in terms of a gym, did you say before the location, where you're like, there needs to be a place where people can train, and I want to get the best out of people, on the east side?
Yeah.
Was that step one in figuring out where you wanted to be? Because you could have been anywhere.
Right. No, and again, my transition from being that entrepreneur for about 2.5 years to going to Orange Theory, I realized that everything that I was doing at Bluff Creek Park and in these other spaces, they were doing at Orange Theory, except they had the whole corporation behind them.
Gotcha.
The whole setup. I mean, mine, I didn't do the, obviously I didn't have treadmills and all that stuff, but it was like the structure was the same. The way it was put together was the same thing that I was already doing in the park, driving my truck and pulling equipment out of my truck. And it was like, I can do this. Okay. And I realized that from that point, I said, and thank God the owner that I was working for, the location and more, he was like, yeah, he was like, if anybody could do it, you could. Okay. Because he felt like I was special in regards to how I came in and just kind of, I won't say took over, but it was natural for me. It was very natural for me. So I realized, I said, yeah, I can do this, but where? Where could I do this? And I honestly didn't want to, and not that I was scared of competition, but I did not want to go somewhere where they were already used to it. Like, they already had the opportunity. I was training some athletes whose parents were well off, and it was like, okay, well, this is easy. They can pay for it. They can do this. But I remembered my athletes. All the athletes that I had coached, all the athletes that I had trained, all the athletes that I had poured into, not just through sports, but just through academics and through life on its own. I was a behavior specialist while I was teaching for a couple of years. And so I got to see how their mindsets set them up for failure. And I figured, okay, if I can help change an environment, I can help change the mindset.
So your target audience, where you were looking for people who would be more driven, because when you often have things at your disposal, you don't take advantage. You don't use it to its full potential.
That part,
because it's always readily accessible. It's
or take it for granted.
Right, you take it for granted. Yeah. But when you have to work a little bit harder, you have to get up a little bit earlier. Yeah. You have to prepare more for it. Yeah. at some point you're either going to appreciate the results from those habits,
Right.
or circumstances might be that you may quit or you may not.
Right.
But it sounds like you found your customer base was based on people that you were going to see the potential and the best in them, but also have this drive to also want to be better,
And
but
that's
need
it.
somebody like you who sees the best in them, that is not going to let them quit, going to push them a bit further.
Push one, present it to them as a possibility, and then push them to want to hope they would want it. But again, it's easier to want it when you see it's actually available to you.
Right. So you wanted your target audience for in fitness to be don't want it because I want it for you.
Right.
Want it because you see it in yourself.
Yes.
I'm going to be the conduit to get you there.
Yes.
And then having a space to do that where people can come home to do that.
Yeah.
You realize that you needed a space.
I needed a space
to do that.
Yeah.
So what were some things that you learned in the process of opening up your first business that surprised you, and opening up a business, the startup process and opening?
Man, I would say the marketing, getting the word out. Because again, I think might have been a little ahead of my time. Because I was the first fitness studio, on the east side that, provided personal trainers and provided fitness plans. And it was, I jumped in head first. Let's just say I didn't do all the things that I would do now.
I mean, but if you look at your life and what you've shared, I mean, you went into it. You were like an all or nothing. I'm going in and I'm going to do what it takes to make it happen.
Yeah. And I just didn't realize how much of a community liaison I was going to have to be. I was prepared because I felt like I could connect and make the connection. But that was probably something that really surprised me, that people didn't just come busting through the doors. And I should say the people of the community,
right?
Because day one we had people coming from Norman, Yukon, Mustang, Edmond. It's like,
you found your customers. You had people who were willing to follow you.
They followed me.
But then when it comes down to a new pipeline of customers, there's that as an owner, as a founder or startup, whatever you want to call that label, there's that next level of what do I need to do to also bring in new people into the business?
Right. And to make it, to be honest, make it affordable for them.
Right.
To come.
Right.
But
did you have in knowing you knew people who would follow you? That's one.
Yeah.
But then the new pipeline of people, did you have an idea going into it of new people coming in, what you had to do to get them in?
I did not. Initially, I thought it was just price. I thought, hey, you see something here that's, it's new, but it's like it's needed.
Right.
It's like, so you're gonna come, right? I'm right here in the heart of the East Side. So it's the first thing of its kind there. And I'm not that it's me doing it, but you see a Black man doing it. Right. So I figured they would take pride in that and say, okay, we got to be a part of this. We want to be a part of this. And a lot of people walk through the doors and say, oh, this is nice. Like who owns this place? the way it was set up. And a lot of our people didn't realize that when I was the owner. Of course, I had to tell them, but they didn't identify. Because it was something that, again, could have been in Edmond.
Yeah, but when I think about what you said about marketing, and often marketing is one of the last things that people invest in business.
Yeah.
But it's one of the first things that they need, right?
Yeah.
Because what marketing does is it tells people about you. Yeah. The branding is what they say about you.
Right.
So you have a community that was not accustomed to having a fitness center or a facility to pursue their health goals. Didn't have it. It was deprived of it for 40, 50 years of having all that they need to integration. And here you are providing it, but not fully understanding. I have to also educate them. Yep. And I would say that's I think it could be an oversight possibly, but something that you have to learn. Like you have to understand.
Definitely.
Because I look at it this way, and giving yourself some grace. Where else were you going to be able to find the information to know how much education
Mm,
and awareness that you need to create as a part of your business until you got into it.
exactly.
Because where was there a walking trail?
No,
Where was there a gym?
no, wasn't.
Was there a 3K, 5K walk run?
No.
All the risks that you took in having that brick and mortar,
Mhm.
without doing it, you're not going to know what people need
Exactly.
into doing
And how to communicate
and how
with
to communicate.
with the community. Jumping into it, I was like, okay, Facebook and Instagram. I was all over that, not knowing that I needed to be knocking on doors.
Right. So the median age in on the east side or northeast, median age in northeast is 41.
Mhm.
But when you look at the average age in the area that you were on 23rd, it was likely over 50.
Yeah.
So the audience that you identified with was not in the same age demographic, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have the same interest.
Right.
You just know that based on age and possibly interest or lack of availability or lack of routine, that's pouring more into letting people know this is an option for you.
Exactly.
Because price is never the issue.
Right.
Price isn't the issue.
Yeah.
It's do they connect to the value that they're going to get?
Value. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And I found out, slowly but surely that, because we had our oldest member was 72. White lady. But again, I knew I had the knowledge to train anybody. And I don't say that boastfully, but my education provided me that. I was prepared to train, adults. I was prepared to train the elderly. I was prepared to train youth. I was prepared to train anybody, amputee. I actually, my symposium when I graduated was how do you train amputees?
Nice.
What are the different avenues? What are the different tools to use to do this? And I knew I had the knowledge to do it. I could adjust, like I could train someone like my brothers.
Right.
And have somebody that's 72 doing the same thing, but doing it at their level.
And I don't think you said something earlier about kind of being ahead of your time. I don't see it that way. I look at what you were able to do at Intentional Fitness on the East Side as somebody has to see it's possible.
Right. Right.
And sometimes the people who go first have to endure what comes with that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for you, you end up having to close the gym.
I did.
But if you look at the time that you had while you were there and who you impacted, because listening to you talk, you're more interested in how you can impact somebody's life.
Right.
Right. So when you look at the time that you were there, what are some examples of that you recall that make you believe that that your time there impacted lives?
Man, one with the 5Ks that we started through a nonprofit. The community again, a lot of the majority of our members were not from the community, but when the community started coming in and they were like, "Oh, this is here," and it was. It was weird because I was like, yeah, it's been here, right. But
I feel like you might be kind of skirting over the 5K stuff, right?
Yeah.
What made you decide that you wanted to have a 5K on the East Side?
I wanted to impact the community and let them see the possibilities and let them know that health, fitness, wellness, all around wellness was something that should be the norm.
Right. But it's one thing that could be anything, right? But what was it about the 5K? There are, just being frank, there were not upgraded or conducive sidewalks.
No.
Not conducive roadways at times. There's not a clear pathway as you're thinking about this idea, but you decide going to do a 5K.
Yeah.
People can walk or run in my community.
Yes.
With all those things that are in place, you still decided to do it.
Yeah.
That ultimately brought people to Intentional Fitness.
Yeah.
Were you concerned about that going into it, or was it just, I'm going to do it?
I'm going to do it. I wasn't, and I wanted to bring people into the fitness studio. I wanted to, but I wanted to offer something that I felt like nobody was thinking about, that no one was considering to be a possibility there. Again, when I say making it the norm, we didn't see, and I'll say this because I think what the impact that I immediately saw was when I noticed people that were not coming into the studio constantly running by the studio.
Okay.
That became, I was like, it had been almost 2 years because we started right before COVID in August of 2019. And then when it became necessary for people to really get out, people wanted to be outside and be amongst other people. But it was going into 2021 where it was like, oh, like I've never seen you run. I've never seen anybody run down 20 Northeast 23rd. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Right. And and so even though we tried to influence and tried to have them come inside, I realized that this was something that it needed more exposure. It needed more exposure. The community needed to be exposed to it. The community needed to, I felt they needed to have this as a part of their lives so that, again, they would change their minds and change their mindset when it came to not just fitness, but the quality of their own neighborhood.
I think I know what, when you're trying something different to bring attention to your business, you have people think about what's possible.
Yeah.
Everything you talked about in this conversation is getting people to think about what is possible. Even though your own personal journey and how your mom responded to the choices that you made, she probably didn't care for.
Right.
But if you didn't do that, would somebody consider, you know what, I'm just going to go walk my neighborhood?
Right.
Would somebody consider, hey, you know what? Yeah, people tell me all the time what we don't have, but what's really stopping me from going to run down 23rd or in my own neighborhood?
Right.
What's stopping me? Nothing's stopping me.
Right.
So you provide this example of you can still do it.
Absolutely.
But it takes a leader and a person like yourself to get them to think, don't make excuses, do it anyway.
Yeah.
Now, whether that translated them going into getting into the gym, that's one thing, but you inspired it. So if you're looking back and things that you've done, like whether the 5K, which I'm hoping that you still do them.
I will.
And other programs you tried and celebrations you do, what would you do, try different to not just get them to hear about what you do, but to convert them to getting them into becoming a part of? Not running on the outside or on the outside, but saying, I'm going to be a part of it. What would you do as a business owner different to get them to commit?
I would get them more involved, more directly. I start asking questions. What do you want to see? Because again, I just came in and I'm here. I would definitely try to get them more involved, which again, I realize now that social media is not the way to do it.
It's not the only way.
It's not definitely not the only way. Right. And I think the more effective way is, even though I felt like I was this person, but to be more of a man of the community, in the sense of, and I felt like I did my due diligence, talking to certain people, banking on the East Side, hiring high school students and creating apprenticeships and internships. But I think even more so, just being in the mix, if that makes sense. For me, I'm more of a homebody, and my wife says this all the time. You don't have any friends. I was like, I got friends, but but even more so, just being a part of the happenings that was going on, so that influence would be more astute, that it would be more direct. I think with doing it differently, I don't know if maybe because I was a part of the schools, but the school system, but I think really finding a direct connection to grab the community's ear, to where they say, hey, yeah, this is going to increase the value of where we live. by being a part of this and showing them the different avenues of increasing that value, not just because of the fitness aspect, but because of the community aspect.
But challenge you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe you did a lot. And there's only so much you can do, right? I believe you did a lot. You had great visibility of the gym, off 23rd. You're known. You have an audience and a customer base. I don't. When you said be a man of the community or something to that sense, but you already are.
Yeah.
I mean, you are a father, you're a husband, you're an educator, you're an athlete, you're a friend, you're a son, you're already all those things. Right. That is enough. The parts that you just do more of is from the business place. All those other things are, it's a bunch of other social things that they could help, they may not. Right. But from a business place is, what can you implement in terms of your business strategies to get them to connect? So, for example, take the 5K. Maybe you did this. Maybe had considered it. So you have hundreds of people interested. How many people actually registered for on average, the 5K? First 5K, second 5K?
60.
So you had 60. So you had 60 people registered for the 5K. If you think about those 60 people, those are 60 leads. Yeah. How do you take those 60 people and convert them that are not customers to become customers?
Yeah, better marketing strategy.
So it's more of about, not that you need to do more per se, but what could you do better with those 60? So whether that's, hey, QR codes, or do I have all of your contact information? Right. Am I constantly sending them emails, newsletter updates, all those things you can better manage yourself.
Marketing.
Right. Yeah, it's part of an overall marketing strategy, but it doesn't mean that you got to be social in a lot of places.
Right.
Nah, you can't be everywhere.
Right.
You can't be everywhere. Right. But how do you position your business to be in places that you're not going to be? Right. Because you have your commitment to your wife first, your family first. Yeah. Those are things that are going to have to come first.
Absolutely.
So position your business in a place where those customers can connect with you.
Yeah.
Whether QR codes, send them emails. Dealers and Macy's send us emails all the time. People don't unsubscribe.
Right.
So think about doing it, not, don't always about you have to do more to get some. But what can I do better?
Better. Yeah, definitely.
Connect it back to sports.
Yeah.
How do I get the best performance out of my little brother in this hour that I have with him right now?
Yeah.
That then translates for him to make choices on his own when he's not with you.
Right.
But you knew what he was doing or not doing when y'all got together the next time.
Right.
Was he sluggish? Looked dehydrated? Was he hydrated? You're like, how's your eating?
Yeah.
Did you run? How's your rest?
Right.
All those things that you do, you don't always have to change them into the business. You're already doing them. But sometimes as entrepreneurs and owners, we do things that are not typical.
Yeah.
Because we think we have to do something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you look at the success of what you did, yeah, you were the first to open a gym, but that's not going to be the last one.
Right.
You have clients. Yeah. People came to see you.
Yes.
You saw results.
Yeah.
You did something that many people have not been able to do in terms of that location.
Right.
It's not there in physically in location anymore. They had to close it down.
Yeah.
But now beyond that chapter, and I got about 2 more questions we're gonna get out.
All right.
So beyond that chapter, now what's next? What is happening now that Intentional Fitness, the location where it once was? What's next now?
Next is, well, currently, of course, everybody knows about the Willie D. Johnson and the new community health center. So we actually contracted with both of those community centers.
Let's not light on that one. So the Willie D. Johnson Community Health Center was a MAPS 4.
Okay.
A MAPS supported project in Northeast Oklahoma City. Wellness center next to full service grocery store in Northeast Oklahoma City that opened a few months ago.
Yeah, not too long ago.
Not too long ago, late last year.
Mhm.
And so now, going from your gym and experience that you have, still have an opportunity to do the things you learned in your gym. You're still in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Contracting trainers there to provide classes like yoga and hip hop dance and those and the like. And then also contracting the majority of the coaches that are now at the community health center for the 50 and up demographic, and spreading the influence there.
So if you take your experience opening the first gym,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately having to close it,
Mm-hmm.
and the other experience you have training people, sports, pursuing education, going to different schools, figuring out life.
Yeah,
Can you now see how those life experiences have prepared you for today?
definitely. Definitely. It's been a journey. It's been a hell of a journey, but yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So would you say this is are you where you're supposed to be for right now?
I am. You know, and in closing the studio, which was tough. Um, and my wife, she helped me to realize that I had not failed. You know, kind of like everything that you had just mentioned, the influence that I had, and of course, you know, my expectations and my plans was so much grander than just the one location.
Because you're next in line to be Prince.
True. But yeah, no, I do feel like, and I realize, and I've come to the realization that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Um, being on the Northeast side.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
So I'll close with this comment. That, and I said this offline. Don't allow that moment in time that because you had to close a physical location to disconnect you from where you going to be. That same ambition, that same drive, that same passion, that same I'm going to do it attitude.
Yeah.
That's who you are.
Yeah.
And stay connected to that of who you are, because you're going from that place, you're still in the Northeast community.
I am. We moved there.
And you moved
Built
there.
a home there.
And so when you talked about the connecting with people, you did say a man of the community. What are you doing now? You were literally in a building with every demographic that you would want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Now teaching, now introducing something to people that if you did not have the experiences before the brick and mortar location and having it, who would be the right person to do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
That's a great perspective. I like that.
I'm just saying because we need you. We need people like how you think about fitness and health and career, your happy spirit and dancing. That's what we need, because you'll see the fruits of what you bear after.
Yeah.
When you look at the tree, you'll see, oh, that's back to Emmanuel. It has to start from somewhere.
Right.
And sometimes it's really difficult to be the person to start.
Yeah.
But when you look at the long game, they'll be able to trace it back to what legacy did you leave.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, man.
I appreciate that, man. Seriously. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So if someone wanted to connect with you, they wanted your wisdom, they wanted you to train them, or to get your help with their fitness to wellness journey, how can they get in contact with you?
You can still reach me at ifitokc.com. Intentional Fitness is still on Facebook, as well as on Instagram at ifitokc. You can also reach me at emmanuel.sosanya at gmail, EMMANUEL.SOSANYA. And is it okay if I put my number out there?
Of course.
Right.
If you want to, that's on you.
Yeah, I know, right? But no, you can also reach out to me on my cell phone, 405-255-7825. I'm currently working with Jack and Jill, that organization. So we'll be doing a fitness program, a wellness program for them here in April, not too long right after my birthday. But the hope is to expand it. The hope is to expand throughout the community. I'll be going virtually soon, offering or through the platform of Patreon and some other platforms. But I'll be offering virtual workouts and meal plans and mindset training, because I really feel like that's what's helped me through the transition of moving out of the brick and mortar and moving into these spaces is creating the type of mindset that says, hey, just because I'm no longer here doesn't mean I have to stop.
Absolutely.
And so the I'm looking forward to growing, because that's what I see growth in the future, in the very near future, working on corporate contracts as well. And because I still have so many instructors, about 15 to 17 instructors that are still under the Intentional Fitness brand, I know that we have the capability of spreading it from the East Side, letting it root from the East Side and spreading it out throughout Oklahoma City.
So I love it, man. So thank y'all for listening to this episode of the Bigger Than Food podcast. Emmanuel, thank you for coming on and sharing your story and your journey.
I appreciate it.
Make sure you intentionally support him, Intentional Fitness, intentionally support Emmanuel and all the great work that he's doing. It can be found at the Northeast Wellness Center.
Yes.
You can also find him online. But what I love what his story is, what he shared with us is being persistent, continue going, pursuing the things, even though they may be hard things to do, but if you do them with the right intention, you'll get some of the great results. So do us a favor, subscribe to us on our YouTube channel at Bigger Than Food, like and share this video. And if you missed the full episode, you can always watch the replay. And like we always say, our mission is bigger than food. Until next time, we'll see you on the next episode of the Bigger Than Food podcast.